Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And today's guest, Victor, knows his stuff when it comes to health, nutrition, sleep, all of that good stuff. And he has some tips in here that will absolutely blow your mind. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Thanks for watching. So Victor, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kara. How you doing today?
Man, it is a beautiful day. I am loving life. How about you?
I'm loving life too. It's a brand new year, and I'm looking forward to a really exciting year.
I am as well. And I love this topic. This is health and nutrition and all of that stuff is just right up my alley. So let's get a little background on you. Just kind of tell us whatever you'd like to that brought you to this point.
Okay, so I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I've worked in the corporate world for many years, but about 20 years ago, I started reading some stuff about health and wellness and nutrition. I found out that much of what we had been told was not the truth. So I started slowly reading up on things. And I always thought that everything if we ever had a problem, we should just get some medication for it. And then I started discovering that a lot of these meds have a lot of really bad side effects. And you know, I realized a lot of the problems was we were eating bad quality food, we were eating ultra processed food, we weren't getting enough vitamins and minerals. And no matter how healthy your diet is, you can't get everything because the soils are nutritionally deficient. So you also need to supplement. So over the course of the year, I started learning more and more, and I realized a big reason why so many people are getting sick is because they don't have the information out there. And if they had, I think a lot of more people would be leading healthier lives. So, and that's really became a big goal of mine. I would say over the last 6, 7 years, as I really gotten into it more, because I started seeing family members getting sick, some of them passing away, and I realized part of it was because of the lifestyle they were leading. And if they did things differently, they could have lived longer.
Absolutely, they could have, and happier, lived healthier and happier, right?
Absolutely.
So in my opinion, it's kind of like the emperor has no clothes on and everyone is just blindly just eating what everyone else is eating, and but they're not looking at the results. What is the obesity rate in America?
It's definitely skyrocketed over the decades. So I mean, it's skyrocketed among kids. I mean, you look at the Woodstock concert from 1969. It was a 3-day concert upstate New York. You look at everyone there. Everyone there is skinny. No one there is obese. Now you look at a rock concert, a pop concert. I don't know, Beyonce, one of these people. You're gonna see a lot of obese people there. It's just getting higher and higher. It's not just, and what goes along with obesity is diabetes type 2, because that is a big trigger for obesity. And there's probably over 100 million people in this country that are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So that's probably close to 40% of the people in this country. And a lot of doctors probably think that there's people have some type of insulin resistance, either great or little, like the majority of people in this country. And a lot of it's because of the foods. It's people eating way more carbs than they did decades ago. A lot of high fructose corn syrup, for example, and other types of carbs. People eating a lot more vegetable and seed oils, which a lot of people don't know also contribute to diabetes. So
I want to stop you there because you said that I did a lot of research and you said that a lot, and you said seed oils are bad. What about olive oil?
olive oil in general is, in most cases, is okay. The problem is with olive, you have to be careful because that's a low smoking point. So if you cook at it and it goes above that smoking point, it could oxidize, and it could turn into a trans fat. So if you're going to use olive oil, I would say in general, if you're not cooking with it, it's usually okay. It's safe. It's one of the safer oils, but you got to be careful with cooking because it's got a low smoke point. So that's the only issue with olive oil. So be careful cooking with it. Cook at a very low temperature. If you want to cook at a high temperature, you probably should use something different like avocado oil. Coconut oil is probably okay too. Maybe some sesame butter is okay. And you know what? Fats people, these cooking oils which people used to use 56 years, which they don't use anymore, very safe. Tallow, which is beef fat, and lard, which is pork fat. We used to people growing up, 30, 40 years ago, used to use it all the time, and they stopped using it. You could still get them on like at Amazon or Walmart.com, but they're much healthier to use as seed oil. So, and people growing, remember, you used to see them in the supermarkets all the time. Lard is okay and
Okay.
healthier to use than corn oil, cottonseed oil. And vegetable oils, soybean oils, uh, those are all really bad, and they all cause all kinds of oxidative stress and issues with your health.
Okay. So, someone who's listening, and let's say that they're 100 pounds overweight and they're listening, what's the first baby step? Because you cannot, I don't think most people can go from a bad diet to a great diet overnight, unless maybe they just had a heart attack and they've got motivation like crazy. But if somebody's watching, they're 100 pounds overweight and they're really not suffering too many health benefit or health risks because of it that they are aware of, what's their first step?
Okay. Well, the first thing I would just mention is even though they may not be feeling anything right now because of the compound effect, if they keep at the rate they're going to feel something in the next few years. So just something they should be aware of because that's the problem. People like if you don't have a heart attack after eating a Big Mac from McDonald's, you figure everything's okay. But if you eat a lot of Big Macs over the course of years, guess what? You're going to have health issues. But the first thing I would just say is that's easy to do is stop cooking with these seed oils. Stop with the corn oil, the soybean oil, the canola oil. You can do that and replace them with healthier oils. That is the first thing you can do because if you can limit the seed oils, it's going to start helping you lose weight. Diet is the most important thing when it comes to weight. It's actually much more important than exercise. Exercise is definitely helps, but it's probably only 20% of the equation. 80% of your changes is diet. So that'd be the first thing to do. Lower the seed oils. You can do that by stop cooking with them.
Okay, so if I'm going to a restaurant, what is my food cooked in generally?
Almost always is going to be some sort of seed oil because they've been told it's heart healthy. It's also they're a lot cheaper. So
Mhm.
there's an app, I forgot the name of the app. They could tell you the places that don't use seed oils, but they're not a whole lot of them in the U.S. It's maybe 1 or 2% of them. Very few restaurants in this country don't use them. I mean, some people recommend you could be bold and ask, hey, yeah, I have this health issue. Can you cook it in butter? And you can't hurt to ask. They may say no, but it can't hurt to ask.
Okay, all right. So you also talk an awful lot, like an awful lot. This seems to be like something you could get on a soapbox about. That you could take all kinds of vitamins, but if you don't have the right minerals, the vitamins don't work. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, vitamins, you need to have the minerals first because they're cofactors. So vitamins without minerals are not going to work. So you need to get the minerals first. So our body needs altogether 90 nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and three essential fatty acids. Uh, but without the vitamins will not work without the minerals. So you got to make sure you get your calcium, your magnesium, selenium, potassium, all those things. And and a problem is another problem is unfortunately, the soil doesn't have a lot of these minerals like they did 100 years ago. And we've known this has been a problem since 1936. A Senate document came out saying that the soils are nutritionally deficient. Now, if it's not, now some plants can, if they're watered properly and they get enough sun, can make some vitamins. But if the minerals are not in the ground, they're not going to be able to make those minerals. So you got to find. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why they don't have the minerals, but you need to have the minerals in there for the vitamins to work. So if you get some vitamins, don't take it by themselves. Take it along with some minerals as well because they're going to work. Without them, that you're really not going to get much out of the vitamins. So a lot of people are not aware of that.
Very few people are aware of that. And the other thing is the source of your vitamins and minerals. How important is that?
Well, yeah. Well, also you gotta, and that's the other thing. You gotta make sure they're good quality vitamins. No more. Ideally, it's best to get it from food, but right now it's impossible to get everything you can from your food. We've known that for many decades. So, but yeah, the first thing to do, try to get them from food. So, for example, eat a lot of good fruits and vegetables, primarily vegetables, because vegetables tend to have much lower sugar. Uh, but yeah, but you also get good quality vitamins. And also, you got to make sure make sure it's really good quality because, for example, a lot of stuff on, let's say, Amazon, for example, it's not highly absorbable. It's going to be 8 to 20% absorbable. So very often you're throwing your money away. Yeah, a lot of these vitamins are not very absorbable. So you got to, do your research, find good quality companies that make highly absorbable vitamins and minerals. Now, here's the thing: a lot of people say, "Well, I don't want to pay the extra money," but is your health worth it? If you're paying something that's only 10% absorbable, you're throwing your money away. So pay that extra money for something that's 85, 90, 95% absorbable because your body's going to utilize it much more efficiently. So people don't look at it. It's not what you take, it's what you absorb that matters.
Right, right. I saw something about 1 billion years ago, and I don't know if it was real or if it was just an advertisement for this different kind of vitamin, but it was like full vitamins in the sewer. like where they didn't even break apart at all. It just you just took it and that was your money and it just went down in the sewer.
Yeah.
So very important. Very important. Okay. So take your vitamins and your minerals. Stop using seed oils. What else?
Yeah. Oh, if you again, exercising again is going to help, lose some weight. And I would say definitely cut down on the carbs, especially the high fructose corn syrup. The fructose is much worse than the glucose. I think it makes increases fat by 7 times as much as glucose, if I remember reading correctly. And another problem, you need a little bit of glucose in your body for your body to function. You only need about a teaspoon of glucose, and we usually digest a hell of a lot more. At least with glucose, a number of organs in your body can metabolize the glucose. Fructose can only be metabolized by one organ, and that is the liver. And because so many people are consuming so much fructose, it overwhelms the liver. The liver, detoxes a lot of substances, but if you're ingesting a lot of poison, a lot of fructose, and plus a lot of people on a lot of meds, especially if they get old, they'll be on 6, 7, 8 meds. That can overwhelm your liver, and the last thing you want to do is overwhelm your liver. As powerful as it is, if it's overwhelmed by too many toxins, it's gonna have issues later on. So yeah, so definitely limit the fructose. So yeah, it's really just limit the ultra processed foods. That's really what gives the weight, because it's got all this junk in it and all these other artificial foods. Eat real food. Protect the yeah, feed the gut and protect the liver, which is what Dr. Robert Lustig says. And you got to eat real food. You got to take care of your gut too. So that's what causes a lot of problems, because a lot of people eating artificial. And this is, of course, the biggest problem is in the poor community, because ultra processed food also tends to be cheaper, and a lot of times they can't afford to eat the better quality food, the real food, and so they're absorbing this toxic food, and they're having a lot of health issues. And you're seeing a lot of poor neighborhoods. You see a lot more people that are obese because they're eating this really ultra processed, which has these seed oils, which has high levels of carbs, and so you really have to limit. And the other problem with ultra processed foods is that not only do they make you more obese and give you insulin resistance, they also lead to higher levels of cancer. I think for every 10% extra ultra processed foods you have, your risk of cancer goes up 12%.
Wow. Wow. So I think people are very uninformed in a big way, and they may not even understand what real food means. So when you say real food, what are you talking about? Whole foods.
Yeah, whole foods, lively foods, foods with enzymes, and really foods with very few ingredients. If you look at the label and it has 87 ingredients, it's probably not real food. It's probably artificial food. And if it has a lot of ingredients which you have trouble pronouncing, it's probably not real food, and it's probably unhealthy for you. If it has like 3 or 4 ingredients, it's probably real food and good quality food. So it's things like that you need to pay attention to. And that, unfortunately, a lot of people do not read the ingredients. They just read whole and natural. Natural it means absolutely nothing. Anyone could claim it's natural. So you really should try to get organic food. Make sure it's certified by something else, by some organization. And you got to do stuff like that. You got to read, lively. I mean, fruits and vegetables, for example, are live foods. But you also got to make sure it's better if you can get them organic, if possible, because they're going to be less pesticide residue and stuff like that. So that's what I mean by eating real quality food, live food. And unfortunately, a lot of people are eating dead food, which got very little nutrition, lots of toxins. And if you keep doing that, your body's going to suffer.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people that you see that are super heavy are also starved. Their body is starved for that's why they keep eating more and more of this stuff trying to satisfy what their body actually needs, and they're not going to find it in those foods.
You're right. Your body's not starving for the foods. It's not starving for the French fries, it's starving for nutrients, and it's going to keep going. You know, you've seen like horses and cows. They'll eat wood or something because they're searching for certain minerals. So animals would do that, and even you've seen kids sometimes. The It's called pica. They'll eat lead paint, because they're starving for certain minerals. And it's like you'll see why are these kids eating this stuff, which is poison, because your body's craving these minerals. So animals do it, even humans do it. And because we're so mineral deficient right now, bodies will eat certain things. They're like, well, kids will sometimes eat wood. Animals will do that because they really want these minerals. Another really great source of minerals is real salt, not the salt you buy in the stores, which have no minerals. The only thing they have is iodine. The reason to put iodine in is because salt generally has very little iodine in it, and because people were getting goiters, the government started putting iodine in a lot of salt to prevent goiters. But they stripped out all the other minerals. So if you get something like Celtic sea salt, Himalayan salt, Redmond sea salt, they have a lot of these trace minerals which your body needs. So they'll have 50, 60, 70 minerals, and so you can get one of those type of salts would have lots of minerals, and it's going to help address a lot of the mineral deficiency problems. And you know what? Even though they may not have a lot of iodine, you know what? You can buy this liquid iodine. You can get in, take a couple drops, and you'll have your full dose of iodine. So that's another way to address a lot of the mineral deficiency. Eat real salt, not the salt you buy in supermarkets.
Right. And I actually do. And I don't know the dosage of it, but I get the Celtic salt. Some people call it Celtic salt. And I just have it out and I grab a little pinch of it a couple times a day, and that's how I handle that. So, is there a way to know how much you should take?
Well, it really depends. Probably the more deficient, you probably one doctor I read, he said recommended like a couple of teaspoons a day, especially when people are deficient in it. But I would just say take at least a teaspoon a day or a pinch. So, and you're going to feel the difference. It's one of the reasons why people cramp. It's because they're deficient in a lot of these salts, like magnesium salt, calcium, and a number of different salts. You'll find when you get these real mineral salts, you will find you cramp a lot less.
Nice. Okay, so magnesium. If you go to the Whole Foods or wherever you shop, there's like 50 different magnesiums. How do you know which one you need?
Well, there's a lot of different types of magnesium. I would say some of my favorite is probably magnesium glycinate, but I think magnesium citrate is also nice. Magnesium malate is also good. So those are some of the best forms of magnesium. I would say stay away from magnesium oxide because it's poorly absorbed. And one another thing magnesium does use is if you're constipated, that's one of the things they give you in the hospital. They give you milk of magnesia. Now it's a form of magnesium you probably don't want to take long term, just for a couple of days. Magnesium hydroxide. So that's what milk of magnesia is. So, but I would just say probably glycinate, malate, etc. are probably the top forms of magnesium. They're the most highly absorbable.
Okay. And vitamins. What you've made it very clear we can't get everything we need from what we're eating. What should be a daily regimen that you just take?
Yeah. Well, again, you got to take all vitamin A. Really important is not just for eyesight. It helps with your immune health. It's very important for your immune health. It helps with acne. The B complex vitamins help with so many things. Metabolism or brain health. It helps prevent insulin resistance. All the different B complex vitamins are important. Particularly niacin. Right? Niacin is actually so important that it's actually the one vitamin your body will make a little bit of it if it's extremely deficient. And your body will not make any other vitamin except niacin. So, but it only make a little bit of it because that's how important niacin is. And for people worried about cholesterol, guess what? Niacin will lower it much better than any cholesterol lowering drug without the side effects. And actually, one of the things that happens when you're deficient in it is your neck turns red, and that's the origin of the term redneck because it's a deficiency of niacin. A lot of people don't know that. So yeah,
You learn
so
something new every day.
yeah, you definitely do. So niacin is very important. All the B complex vitamins are extremely important. Vitamin C helps with heart health. It helps build collagen. It helps your immune system. Your adrenal glands will use it. It helps with stress. It helps with so many different things. And it may possibly be the most important vitamin. It helps with so many different things. And human beings are one of the few animals that do not make their own vitamin C. Most animals are able to make them, especially when an animal gets stressed, it makes more vitamin C. Humans, primates, guinea pigs, and I think a couple of species of bats are the only ones that don't make their own vitamin C. Everyone else can do it, so it's a shame. I don't know why we can't, but so and one doctor, Dr. Matthias Rath, thinks that's one of the reasons why human beings get heart attacks, whereas most animals don't, or they rarely do get heart attacks because vitamin C is very important for the heart. Vitamin D, everyone knows, is important, for your immune system health. It helps with blood sugar. It actually helps you feel better. So you notice you go out in the sun, you get that vitamin D, you tend to feel better. When you're indoors all the time, you don't feel as good. And even some cancer drugs will use some vitamin D. So it's really important for your immune system. In fact, I think one of the reasons we would get so sick during the winter is because we're not getting the vitamin D because we're not going outside. And when we do go outside, we're covered, so we're not getting the vitamin D from the sun. So a lot of people don't think of that. Vitamin E again helps with immune health, helps with heart health, really important. So those all those vitamins are extremely important. So obviously, if you can get them from food, that's great. But if not, find a good supplement. And again, do your research. Take that time. Your health is worth it. You do your research to buy good quality stock. Don't you think it's worth it to find a good quality vitamin, a good quality mineral? Isn't it important for your health? Aren't you worth it?
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. People are so short-sighted. We are an instant gratification world, not just our society, but the whole world is I want it and I want it right now. And so let's back up just a little bit to the diabetes because I do believe a lot of people are truly ignorant to the fact that for type 2 diabetes, you can 100% reverse it. You have the power without the drugs. So can you go into how that would work?
Yeah, it is definitely reversal because diabetes, the type 2 diabetes didn't exist 100 years ago. It's much different than type 1 diabetes, which is really you I get as a kid. So type 2 diabetes, it's really something that's caused primarily by diet. So if you change the kind of foods you eat, again, if you limit the amount of carbohydrates, the sugars, the fructose, you limit the seed oils, you walk more, you get out in the sun, all those things will make a big difference in getting rid of the diabetes. The big factor in diabetes is, and what a lot of these things lead to is oxidative stress. And a lot of doctors are not aware of. If you lower the oxidative stress, and a lot of it's caused by the diet that we eat, you can definitely reverse diabetes. There've been many people who reverse it by changing their diet. You eat real food, cut the carbs, cut the seed oils, and just eat better quality foods. You limit that, you'll see a change in that. It can definitely be done. So don't do it. Drugs are never going to be they will never solve the diabetes problem. No, you mentioned instant gratification. A lot of people don't want to change their lifestyle. They want to go to a doctor. Give me a magic pill to take care of this problem. If I'm 150 pounds overweight, I'm not going to lose it in one day. It's not going to happen. It's going to take some time. It took me a while to put on that 150 pounds. It's going to take me a while to lose it. In fact, if you lose too much at once, it's actually very dangerous for health. You're supposed to lose weight a little bit at a time. So they've definitely done studies. You can't do it that way. But most people want a magic pill. There is no magic pill for your health. You do a lot of things that will harmful to your health, but you can revert. Your body most of the time has this incredible ability uh, to recover from damage you've done to most of us. And there are times you've gone too far out of the way that you can't. But much of the time, your body has this ability, an amazing ability to recover if you give it the right foods, the right nutrients, the minerals, the vitamins, and you eat good quality foods, you exercise, and get enough sleep. Sleep is something that's very important. A lot of people don't understand. It helps so much with your health. It helps kids grow more. It helps them learn better. It can help prevent certain diseases like cancer, and it gets rid of a lot of toxic proteins. There's certain toxic proteins which, if you get enough sleep, your body will help get rid of. So sleep has a lot of health benefits people don't realize. And in fact, they did studies with like teenage drivers. One of the reasons why they get into a lot of accidents is because they're not getting enough sleep. They get up earlier. They get up very early, but teenagers still need to get about probably 9 hours sleep. So in a couple of cities, when they push the starting time of school back 30 to 45 minutes, so instead of 7:30, they push it back to 8:15. They noticed that the amount of driving accidents these teenagers had greatly decreased, and it's probably because they were getting more sleep.
It is so powerful. And that brings me to meditation, which I don't think this is probably also going to shock a lot of the listeners. That if studies have proven that if you will meditate 4 times a week for just 20 minutes, you can, it is the exact same as taking high blood pressure medicine to lower your blood pressure.
I believe it. It definitely relaxes you. It makes you feel better. And it helps in so many other ways. It helps with your creative juices. A lot of people know this, but um, Tim Ferriss wrote the book The 4 Hour Work Week, and he interviewed a bunch of people who were at the top of their field in their profession, and he had them fill out a survey. And one thing he noticed was 90% of them did some sort of meditation or morning mindfulness exercise every single day. So meditation is very powerful. It not only has a lot of health benefits, but it can also help you become more successful in your field as well, because it really gets the creative juice. It changes your brain. They've done studies that people meditate, there's definitely changes done to the brain for the better. And when you're relaxing, here's the thing. You want to detox, your stomach, the food. You also have to detox your mind, and meditation will help with that as well. Giving it that 15-minute break. If you're able to, you have your control your mind, control your body. You're able to do so many things, and that's the thing. We're not able to control ourselves. We're always letting things get in our way. We're always like doing something. We never know how to relax. That's one reason why spending some time in nature is also very beneficial to your health.
Very, very important. It literally, I read somewhere and I got caught, and it was pretty funny because my friend came around the corner and I was literally hugging a tree. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "If you hug a tree for 27 seconds, you get all these good endorphins and all this stuff." And I had just read it, and that was the first time I ever did it. I haven't done it since because I got embarrassed. But like, being in nature is incredibly important. I mean, grounding, getting yourself where your feet are actually on the ground is, people in big cities like where you live almost never ever touch the earth.
You're absolutely right. And when we people in us in the big cities, when we go somewhere, people go on a retreat for a few days. They always come back so refreshed. I feel so good. It was so great, communing with nature. And like you said, hugging a tree or just getting grounded, walking barefoot on the grass. Those things just feel so much better. It's like, yeah, you can't do that on concrete.
No, no, it's a concrete jungle, and we're feeling the effects of it for sure. Okay, so we've talked about minerals, we've talked about vitamins, we've talked about seed oil, we've talked about sugar, but not a lot. Is there anything you would like to add to the sugar discussion?
Yeah, and again, and a lot of people bought into something that was called the high carb, low fat diet, which was created by Ansel Keys in the 1950s. And this guy did so much damage to people's health because, and they've known since the early 20th century that high carb diets were not good. So people, and what another thing that happens when you have high carb, low fat diets is, people also tend to, when you eat high carb foods, you also tend to eat more high seed oil, so they kind of tend to go together as well. So it's led to a whole bunch. It's led to increases in cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Heart disease did not was rare, in the early 20th century. Cardiologists had very few patients in 1905, and uh, and I think it's because of this change in the diet. It's caused so many issues. Sugars will also mess up your gut health. It's been shown to do that, and your gut, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So it'll definitely mess up your gut. It will help interrupt. It'll mess up with your brain health as well. It'll make you feel all kinds of issues. Oh, another thing, this guy, Dr. Christopher Palmer, has noticed that people who are insulin users have type 2 diabetes. There's a big correlation between that and mental health. So some of these issues like mental health, uh, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia could be linked to metabolic disorders. So when you have metabolic disorders, you can have a lot of different mental issues as well. So there's something they're starting to discover now. Other doctors are like Dr. Perlman have also discovered that. So, and type 3 Alzheimer's disease is actually being called type 3 diabetes right now. A lot of people did not know that. So it definitely affects your brain health as well. So it causes all kinds of issues if you eat way too much sugar. So kids have a little bit, and I'm not saying don't ever have sugar. I have a very sweet tooth. So one of my favorite dessert places I used to go in New York City. I used to go twice a month. Now I go maybe twice a year because I love sugar. So I'll reward myself every once in a while. But I'm not gonna do it all the time. Doesn't mean I don't eat pizza. I still eat pizza, but I eat it. I don't eat it as often as I used to eat pizza like 2, 3 times a week. Now it's a lot for less sugar. So you can still eat these things, but I would definitely say just limit the sugars because it really doesn't do you much good. Again, you need a little bit of sugar, a little bit of glucose, but it's only maybe a teaspoon, and we're eating way more, far more sugar than we need, and it really doesn't. It just does a lot. It does a lot. It's going to help you become more diabetic. And they know. And again, the one you need to really stay away from is the fructose. And we're eating a lot more fructose than we did 50, 60 years ago. And you will see when people were eating a lot less of these foods, they were much thinner. So you're going to get the metabolic diseases, and again, it's going to mess up your brain health. It's going to mess up your gut health. And when your gut health is messed up, you're going to have all kinds of health issues. I mean, that's why people who are on antibiotics and they've been on it for a long time. It could take a long time to restore the gut because antibiotics, they don't just kill the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, but they also kill the good bacteria. And you need that good bacteria. And a lot of people are not aware of that. And so many people um, have gut so many gut issues, and it's really why they're struggling. So that's why you need to take a lot of good probiotics, but it could take a long time. So if you've been on a lot of antibiotics, taking probiotics for a month is not going to solve the problem. You may need to be on it for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What about gluten?
Yeah, gluten is also a problem. And it's really the gluten in the modern wheat is a big problem. The traditional wheat, which used to till about maybe 6 years ago, there was less gluten in it, but it leads to increases celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome. It also affects your brain health. It causes headaches and all kinds of issues with your brain as well. And it destroys the villi in your intestines, so it makes it harder to absorb nutrients. So a lot of people are not aware of that. So I would definitely say try to limit the gluten. A lot of people don't realize this is what the modern wheat does. Modern wheat is a genetically modified wheat. And the reason they didn't, and I don't think there's some conspiracy going on. I just think they just thought it'd be better because they had a higher yield, but they didn't do testing to see were there adverse health consequences to it, and there were. They're getting a higher yield, but there are all these health consequences which they did not have long before. That's why celiac disease is skyrocketed. It's like 500, I think like it's far, far greater than it was, say, in 1950. And unfortunately, it's really hard to buy the traditional wheat. It's very, very few places make it. You can't. You think you could go to Whole Foods to find it. You will not find it at Whole Foods. So it's really hard to find these things. So there are some things you could get online, but if you're gonna, but the only thing I would just caution with some of the gluten-free foods, read the ingredients because sometimes they'll have these hidden sugars like modified tapioca starch. So just because it's gluten free doesn't mean it's not because they'll put these hidden sugars in it, and they have a lot of these different starch names on it. So make sure they don't have those starches. If they don't, then it's fine. But with gluten free, make sure you're also reading it. Yeah, you want it gluten free, but make sure it doesn't have these hidden sugars because some of those products do have them.
I've got a friend who is very gluten sensitive, and she said when she went to Europe, she had no problem eating the bread there. What is that about?
Well, I've never been to Europe, but I'm guessing that they probably have. Uh, I know the one thing I do know about Europe, there's a lot of ingredients we put in our foods here that are not allowed in Europe. So right now, yesterday, the FDA banned red dye number three, which is a color thing which has been shown to cause cancer in animals and also in cosmetics. So it's been banned in most European countries for years. So I know a lot of ingredients are banned. So I don't know the requirements in Europe, to be honest with you, but maybe their foods are, if they do have gluten, they have very low amounts of gluten. And and I'm guessing there's probably a lot more gluten-free foods and low gluten foods out. There's one I'm guessing. I can't tell you for certain because I don't live in Europe, but I do know they ban a lot of products a lot of ingredients that we put in our foods here, and they ban fluoride in the water there. A lot of cities in this country still have
They
fluoride
they
in the
burn
water. Fluoride,
they
yeah,
ban what?
fluoride in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of cities here still carry fluoride as a toxin. It's a poison. It causes all kinds of health issues. So, pretty much all of Western Europe is banned, and I know Israel's banned it, Japan is banned it, and some other countries banned. There are some cities here that have banned it, but still a lot of cities use it, and it is a toxin, just like chlorine is a toxin as well. So that's one of the reasons why Europeans live longer than Americans do. They use butter instead of margarine. They use more real food. Like I said, eat real food. Europeans tend to eat real food. So they eat more organic food. They eat a lot less ultra processed foods. So I know that overall. And I'm guessing their foods probably have a lot less gluten. I can't say that for some, but I'm guessing they probably do.
I'm not positive, but I think it was called Food Inc. There was a documentary, and they said that there are 6,000 ingredients in American food that if Americans were to send it anywhere else, they would take those items out, yet they feed it to Americans all day long. So it seems like RFK might make a difference in what's available and what's readily available. Do you are you? I'm not political at all. I'm very apolitical. However, what do you think about him taking over the Food and Drug Administration?
In terms of what he says about seed oils, I agree with him 100%. So I'm not looking at politically. I'm just looking at health wise. He's right about seed oils. He's right about big pharma and the damage that they do. They did a lot of them. They just only care about the money. They want sick customers because they make money out. They don't make money when people are healthy because a patient cured is a patient lost. So what he says about big pharma and seed oils and eating a healthier diet, I totally agree with him on it. So if he's confirmed and he does what he says he'll do, I think he can definitely make a difference. So I'm hoping if he does get confirmed, he will do what he says because what he says I like so far, and I really agree with the seed oils and the big farmer.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, it's giving me some hope too, because it is heartbreaking to see people who out of pure ignorance. Ignorance is not a bad word. It's just they are unaware. That's all that means. Out of pure ignorance are killing themselves slowly. And to just bring awareness to it, I think will make a huge difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. A lot of people do not have the information, which is why I'm working in health and wellness nutrition. I'm coaching people. That's why I wrote my book, How to Be Happy, Healthy, and All, because I wanted to get people the information. A lot of people do want to live healthier lives, and they're just going about it the wrong way because of the bad information that they were given. And, getting back to sugar, a lot of people don't know this. In the 1960s, there were two Harvard researchers who exonerated sugar. They said it didn't cause any kind of health issues. And they found out 30 years later they were paid off by the sugar industry. They were given $6,500 each, which is about $50,000 today. And one of those two guys wrote the new dietary guidelines in 1977. The guy that was bought off, one of the two guys that was bought up by the sugar industry. There's a lot of conflicts of interest. People have no idea. I mean, if you look at the American Diabetes Association, if you go to their website, you can see a lot of their sponsors are big pharma companies.
So, speaking of a conflict of interest, it has been brought to my attention that doctors get paid a commission for selling chemo to someone. That is stunning to me. Where is the care for the patient in that? So we have to be aware, guys. And the Food Inc. show will teach you so much, and it's a little scary, but if you ignorance is not bliss in this scenario.
No, absolutely, you're right about that. And it's sad to hear that they get paid to recommend chemo, and they also get a lot of pressure from the insurance companies. So like a lot of doctors are pressured to put people on statin drugs, which have a lot of horrible side effects. But if they don't put enough people on statin, and they don't even have to be sick. It's just if they might if if they're over a certain age and um, they could still put them on statin drugs. I mean, they don't write enough prescriptions for them. They could get punished by the insurance, and they might even eventually, go out of business or lose their lives. So a lot of doctors are under a lot of pressure from medical boards and from the insurance industry to write a lot of prescriptions. So it's not easy for them either. So there's something needs to be changed about this medical system because you should only be writing prescriptions if you really believe it can help people. Now, sometimes drugs do help. They do in certain sorts. For example, if I get in a car accident and I break a bunch of bones, you need to do surgery on me. Please give me some anesthesia. I do not want to be awake when you're cutting me up. So, for example, give me anesthesia. So there are times you need to, but a lot of times it should not be. A lot of times it should not be the first they recommended. They should look for other more natural solutions, and then if they don't work, then you want to look at the drugs as a backup solution. But very often it's the first they recommend because that's what they're taught in in med school.
Yeah, I actually asked I won't say the name of the hospital, but it's a very famous hospital that everybody thinks if you go to this hospital, they're the very best of the best in the whole world. And I'm sitting across from one such doctor, and I said, "And what about my diet?" And she said, "Oh, honey, you don't need to worry about that. Your body is so amazing that whatever you put in your mouth, your body will turn it into what you need." Doctors don't get any education on nutrition.
That's absolutely true. You talk to most docs, most med schools, they may get a few hours, 3 to 20 hours in all the years they've been in med school learning about nutrition. Only, I think, about a quarter of the med schools have any kind of nutritional curriculum to begin with. But I remember I was listening to Dr. Mark Hyman, and his daughter is in medical school. So she was in third year med school, and he asked her, "Have you learned anything about nutrition in med school yet?" She said, "No, not yet. They haven't covered anything in nutrition." She's in her third year of med school, and they still haven't covered. And that's because that's the way the AMA works. The big pharma, has a tight grip on it. And when you're a doctor, if you spend all those years in med school and very little is covered nutrition, you're going to think to yourself, if they really cover very little about nutrition, it can't be that important. Now, there are some doctors, and you can watch them on YouTube, that have learned about the importance of nutrition, but it's not because of what they learned in med school; it's what they learned on their own. But they will say when they were in med school, very little was covered about. But that's why a lot of doctors, they won't recommend you take minerals and vitamins. They'll just say take this medicine, take this drug, and it'll help. But the problem is drugs only mask the symptoms; they don't cure anything. So that's why people never get better. And what happens? They get put on more and more drugs. And usually, the more and more meds you are on, the worse you get. And another thing, these things, so not only do they have bad side effects, but they'll drain you of various minerals like CoQ10 and magnesium. So you have to start taking even more because you're being drained by these medications.
It is. It's a racket, and I believe with all my heart that most doctors that get into the field get in because they want to help, and they just get so wrapped up in it that they don't realize that they're hurting. That is not what they went in for.
I
So,
agree.
all right. So, if someone wants coaching from you, what does that look like?
All right, so what I normally do is I have them fill out a health evaluation form because we go over everything. They answer a bunch of questions, and then we see where the problem is. It could be with heart tissue, soft tissue, digestion, or blood sugar. So, and then we could see which areas they need to improve on. Maybe some people, they have no heart tissue issue. Heart tissue being like the bones, the joint. Soft tissue would be like the organs, and blood sugar, of course, we know what blood sugar is in digestion. We know what digestion is. So if you have a problem with blood sugar, which I'm sure a big chunk of the people have issues with, we will work on what kind of products they can take with it. So we'll sit down, get together, we'll make recommendations if they want to work with me on it. If they don't, that's okay. They at least know where they stand. And what I will tell you is, a lot of people think they know where the problems are, but there's usually more issues than they are aware of. They're just like, oh, I don't need that. But then when we do the health evaluation, it's like, oh yeah, you do have a problem with this. You already have a problem with soft tissues and these are the things that are happening. Do you experience this and this and this? You have headaches, you have trouble sleeping, and say, yeah, I do. That's what the problem is. So a lot of people are not aware of where the issue lies. So sometimes they have an idea, but they're usually often it's like in 3 or 4 different areas. And so I can tell you a lot of people just are not aware. That's why it's so important to go over this with health validation. People are like, I did not know that, but that makes a lot of sense.
So, do you have like a discovery call or something that you do with people?
Yeah, once they fill it out, we can get on a call and we go over the results. And then if they want to work with me, they can. If not, at least they know where they stand with their health. So it's really up to them. So yeah, it's a free call. It's a free coaching session. So we discuss what's going on, and then we can make recommendations if they want to work with me.
Okay, that's very cool. So we will put the link to your book below. And if they want to do a discovery call with you guys, it can't hurt. My gosh. And it could help so much. And you might be the one. You might be the one in your family that, because you got coaching and because you got help, helps to change your family's health. And it's a beautiful thing. Do you have any stories like that where you coach someone and then their whole family ended up getting healthier?
No, absolutely, because because here's the thing, they start feeling better and they start telling their family, look at me, I'm doing better, because that's the best thing, seeing the example, saying, I know how you were a year ago. You were overweight, you had no energy, you were struggling to walk, and you dropped 30 pounds, and so yeah, absolutely, that happens all the time, and or their friends, they'll tell their friends, not just the family, their friends too, and say, hey, how did you do that? Well, I got coaching from this guy, and we started taking these products, we worked together. Your best advertising is word of mouth. So when people see the difference, because people want to share their story, because I know when I got healthy, I love telling people this is what I did. I changed my diet, I changed what I ate, and again, it's you don't need to starve yourself. That's the other thing. You can eat good quality foods. You just need to change the type of foods that you eat. If you lower the ultra processed food, you eat more natural, healthier foods. You can see the results, and you can drop the weight without starving yourself. I mean, for example, the keto diet, which is very popular, that's not something you could do long term because it's low calorie diet. You can do that for a couple months. You cannot do that for 5 years. You're just going to give up after a while. So I think diets which make you starve yourself generally don't work long term. So it's changing the type of foods that you eat. And the other thing about carbs, if you're going to eat carbs in a meal, eat it at the end of the meal because it'll raise your blood sugar much less than if you eat carbs at the beginning of the meal. So if you're going to have it, eat it at the end of the meal.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Okay, so you are on Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And that my last question that I ask everyone is, what tips or tricks do you have to help our folks think their way to an epic life?
You know, i- if you take care of your health, everything falls into place. It really is because they asked Richard Branson years ago, what was the first step? What's the first thing you do to become a billionaire? He says, exercise. Get healthy. He says, because you're in the shape, you'll be able to do everything. You have a lot more energy to do everything. So if you use the tips I told you about, eat better quality food, get rid of the junk food, get rid of the ultra processed food, get more sleep, get exercise, get your minerals and vitamins, get that nutrition. You do that, you'll be able to accomplish anything else. You want to be successful in any field, you're going to have the energy to do that. So that's why it's important to take care of your health, because everything else will follow from it.
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Victor, thank you so much for dumping so much incredible information on us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Kara. It was a real pleasure being on.